to Suffolk Freemasons' free and accepted podcast, where we hope to inform, educate and entertain. Welcome to another edition of Suffolk Freemasons' free and accepted podcasts. There are two hosts today, myself, Mark Jepson, and
Roger Paulston.
Roger, lovely, and nice that Roger's not on holiday, we always think. And today our guest is Dean. Introduce yourself, please, Dean.
Hi, I'm Dean Nuttall from Virtual and Silence over in Hadley, number 332.
And you're a provincial steward, been there a couple of years, and you're in that position where we find myself and Roger get caught in this as well, that you show any degree of enthusiasm and you suddenly get asked to do other things, don't you?
Yes, that has happened a few times, to be fair.
So you're also early stages of being part of the community team as well?
Yeah, very early
community engagement.
Yeah, very early stages.
Yeah.
Asked to join the team.
Yeah. I mean, we're all old enough to know that actually we shouldn't really put our heads above a parapet.
But we all do. It was good to have new stewards that are prepared to work and help as well. So we have had periods where some of the stewards have disappeared once they got their own.
Yeah, so it is good. And we're all proud. In fact, we're all stewards, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
So, Dean, you are going to contribute something for the Festival29. Tell us all about that.
Basically, I'm planning to, and I have tried to get other people to join the trip, paddle from Fort William in Scotland across to Inverness, which is about 65 miles. Will take 3 to 4, possibly longer, depending on the weather and the midges. And I'm now at the stage where I'm just hoping people will sponsor the trip.
So what made you do this canoe? Because it's a canoe trip. I know people said it's a kayak, but it's canoe because it's a Canadian canoe?
It is just under 16 foot open Canadian canoe, yeah. And
you're taking all your gear with you?
Everything will go with us. We have had a couple of offers of people who have said they'll come up with a support team and bring extra food and stuff. But ideally, as much as possible, we'll try and put everything. But also, I didn't ask my son's coming with me, which is how the trip was formed. But as much as possible, we want to take everything with us. Sleeping bags, trek mats, tents. We'll all go in dry bags. They'll be packed in the middle of the canoe. The canoe can take about just under 400 kilos in weight safely.
And you've done this before, haven't you?
Yes. That is exactly 10 years ago. I did it with a friend of mine.
Well, in the same location.
Same location. In the same.
I know, he's only tall.
And I did think that people might think, you can do it. But the difference is this time, I wasn't planning to do it. It was my son who said, we should have done that trip with you, but I wasn't old enough at the time. And I said, well, we could always do it.
And I'm 10 years older as well.
This is the thing, yeah.
I like to wait a little bit more.
I have started to realise that a bit. And I pull the canoe out of the water and we drag it from one place to another. And also, you do feel the responsibility a bit more when it's your son in the canoe with you rather than your mate.
How old is your son?
He'll be, he's 19, he'll be 20.
Oh, okay.
He's a
man.
Exactly.
He'll look after Dad. But
he'll take the other way around, will
exactly, yeah.
And as long as, sorry.
So what's the duration of each day on your trip?
It will just depend. Because at that time of year, really, you should be looking at, you won't be getting dark till probably 10:30, 11, that far up. So as long as, the tents that we've got, you can pitch within 2 minutes, really. So it's going to be quite a quick pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Get some dinner.
Are you canoeing all day, or are you doing like an hour break?
No, we're going to canoe all day. We'll probably, every now and again, we'll stop for half an hour and have a brew, have a cup of tea, or, get the stoves out. But predominantly, that will be, I'd rather do a longer day, because you just never know how.
And there's a tide, obviously, on the river, so how often will that be with you?
It's not tidal.
Oh, really?
It's just open water canoeing.
Is it like a rough water canoe?
Well, when you're on the canals, they're dead calm. But when you get onto the locks, you do get, the water can get a little bit choppy. So the rule is the advice is from a guy whose books I've read, whose name escapes me, McPherson, which is, if you can't reach the shore, ask yourself why. So usually, if you don't go Because bear in mind, the lock temperature is about the same as the inside of your fridge.
Right.
So when you're on the locks, you don't really want to be in the middle of the lock, whether you're a good swimmer or not a good swimmer. And we have a life force.
It's quite a busy waterway as well, wasn't it? But you've got a lot of tourist boats and other bits and pieces.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's quite open to people to do it now, because you have the Scottish waterways. They run it. They charge, and it's quite a nominal fee. They charge £15 a head. And what they do for that is they give you a key, which means that the locks, you can then use the toilets and the showers.
Oh.
So although you're wilderness in the middle of nowhere, sleeping on the side of the lock, putting your own tent up, no fresh water and all that, you have got somewhere that you can refill every day.
Yeah.
And you've got...
And also, so I presume when you get to the locks, you pick your canoe out, walk up the lock. You don't actually...
Yeah, anything you're not going
the
to...
locks.
We're not going
You'd be allowed to, would you?
No, health and safety wise, I wouldn't have thought so, and that's just easier. Although the one thing I will do this time, what I didn't do last time, is make sure I take the canoe trolley with me. With this when I got to Fort Augustus last time, and I didn't have it, that took us about 2 hours dragging the boat down and then going back for the gear, and backwards and forwards about 15 times. So,
you got a young boy doing that this time.
Yeah.
He'll be doing all that. Well, that's the idea.
Doesn't know this.
No,
But you will when you listen to this.
yeah.
But how much training have you done?
Not loads. I get the canoe out. I store the canoe in Felix, though, to be fair, even though I live in Hadley. So I just take it home on weekends that I know we're going to get out on the water and tend to do most of it on the store.
Yeah.
The good thing about this trip is that you predominantly, now I'll probably jinx it now, I said that, but predominantly you have a west to east wind, which does help push you along when you're on the open water sides of it. So it's not like, as you said, a tidal thing, which, that drags you along with it. But it should just be a gentle trek.
Because how many, say, miles will you do an hour, for instance? I don't know. You haven't got a meter on there. So it's down to two arm or 4 arms.
It would just depend on the day, because if the wind is going against you for whatever reason, which it has done, but I took a shortcut last time when I did it, and we thought we were on Loch Lochy, and we thought we were quite clever, and we thought, oh, look, rather than go all the way around, why don't we be quick and let's just cut across. And we came past an inlet, and the wind ripped out of nowhere, and then the water was lapping over the side of the boat, and then that was a little bit, and you do realise you've made a bit of a mistake.
So you've learned from...
I've learned lessons from that. And there's, on the locks, you can camp anywhere on the lock sides. But they have got these trailblazer sites, which are just the areas that are clear. One or two have a compost and toilet or things like that. But most of them are just clearings, which what they're trying to do is probably make it easier for people just to camp there rather than just camp.
And they imagine no policy in Scotland, unlike the...
Yeah.
So in the places that you'll stay, is there any drying facilities for you if you do get wet?
No, because it will be wild camping.
Yeah. Right.
But the only facility we really will have is at the locks, where we can get some fresh water and you can get a shower.
Right.
So you've got a couple of people coming potentially to help you. What sort of support do they provide? So if somebody said, actually, I fancy a few days in Scotland, what's the sort of support you're looking for?
To be honest, not actually looking for massive support. There's one chap in my lodge who's got a camper van, and he said, well, they wanted to go up to the Isle of Skye anyway, so they will tie that in because they would like to be around at the time should we struggle for food or anything, and they could then, or if we did have something that got soaking wet, for example, the boat capsize, then they would better help us out by drying some gear. But predominantly I'll try not to rely on anybody, because the challenge for me, part of the trip, is to take everything that you need with you or source it while you're there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't feel so much like a challenge, more of a holiday, and you're,
So do you have to notify the authorities, like when you start, when you stop, or just when you start to finish?
You register the trip.
Right.
And the £15, which they then give you the key, also just goes to help them improve the facilities for everybody else, which I think is not a massive... So it's going to cost £30 for 2 of us to do.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's going to cost more for me to go up and gear and everything else. But if that money's going back into the waterways, then I think it's all good, to be fair.
Yeah.
Do you see any well-known sites along that route? I have to say, I'm not familiar with the route particularly.
We'll start off literally going past Ben Nevis on the first canal. You leave a place called Bannerford, you go past Ben Nevis and see the snow on the caps, and then you just realise that there is still a potential that if you get quite cold at night and things like that. You're on Loch Ness, you're at Fort Augustus. You start off at Neptune's Staircase, which is a series of locks, which is the opening to the sea. So you've got about, 7 or 8 locks there. Like I said, Ben Nevis. Then you get onto Fort Augustus, which is another series of locks stepping down into Loch Ness, castle on the side of Loch Ness.
So there's plenty to keep you occupied as you
and that's without
move through
the wildlife and the buzzards and things like that you're seeing swooping down. And when you're there for that time, you're seeing that much more.
You never know, you could turn your venture into a famous one if you plot Leslie.
Yeah, I think that's quite unlikely, but you never know.
And how can people donate?
There's a Give Tap link which I can hand over to you that John from the Festival Chairman set up.
John Dale, yeah.
That is on the festival webpage, though, isn't it?
It is. He's put it on there for me, and he is one of the ones who said he'd be quite happy to come up.
Yeah.
So I need to push that again on the festival page so it's more prominent for people to see.
Yeah, I'll speak to John or have a word with John about that. I've been trying to sort of raise the profile of myself on the light blues and on the festival page. I've bought, as you mentioned earlier when I first got here, I bought a flag to hang off the back of the canoe, which I had made.
That'll make you go fast, won't it?
It
was a comment from Neville in our lodge that was something along the lines of, if you borrow 2 DC ones, he said you can make yourself a sail.
Well, there you are. That's got to be the way.
So is the boy at the front or the back?
He'll be at the front.
That's like tandem, isn't it?
That is, yeah.
Engine at the front and then steer at the back.
Yeah, well, somebody's got to have the brains of it. They've got the brains.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now that'd be good fun having that period with your son as well.
Yeah, that's another reason, really, is you get a one-on-one, you have a bit of a, not bonding experience, I don't think we need to bond, but it'll be nice to do something that, one day that hopefully he'll look back on and think,
exactly.
I did that.
I think that's nice to do it.
Yeah, but a communication thing, like with your phones, or I know you're able to talk to each other, but like people when they go on motorbikes, obviously the noise pleases that.
It's I've never have in the past. It's literally just pull down, and to be honest, it's one of those things. You start off and you talk, and you're looking over your shoulder and you're talking, and there's a lot of things going on. After a little while, you settle into because you stop trying to force yourself through the water and see how far you can get. Because the moment you stop, and the guy I did it with last time said to me, he said, "It's not about the destination, it's about the journey," and that's exactly right. We're allowing a week for it.
Yeah.
I would have thought would be done a lot sooner than that.
Well, if you go mad on the first day and you pull a muscle and you do this, you're knackered, aren't you?
Exactly, and then
a nice
and we could have a day where it absolutely chucks it down the lane and you stay where you are. Exactly.
Yeah. Find a little pub somewhere.
Yeah.
But we haven't got a set amount of day. I've got some rough ideas because there's points where I know that we can. Then you think, well, okay, if we're laying for that or we're laying for that, because the policy is they don't want too many tents.
No.
What they don't want is 30 people all turning up at the same place.
Yeah.
Will there be other people doing it at the same time? Is that?
There might be, but they won't be doing it with me.
No.
They might have registered. When I did it last time, there was a couple of guys who were bankers from, I think, South Africa. I think they'd hired all the gear. They stayed in the bed and breakfast every night, which might have been a nice idea. But So as far as I'm concerned, we have tried to promote it, because I did try when I spoke to John right at the start when I said about this idea, and he said, I think look at so many people, and I've had lots of people inquire and seemed quite keen. One guy was very keen to do it, but then he didn't have his own canoe, and then he said he might do it walking, and then the midges, and then he didn't, and then there was another guy who was going to do it because he works up in Scotland a lot, but that's the peak time, and he said that's really probably the worst time for me to have
Do you have a problem with the midges when you're canoeing on the water, or is it when you're
I think it's more at night. I think is when you get there.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that they just won't be too bad this year. But you never know.
Do you use anything?
The good old skin so soft that everybody promotes. So that's
that's the Avon one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's mostly around the hairline, but it's tacky, really.
Yeah. I'd be in danger because my hairline. I might be safer. But so, just remind us how people can donate again.
You can donate through the gift tap or the gift tap donation. There's a link on the Suffolk Blues. There's a link on the festival, and I think if I speak to John, I'm sure he'll.
Sure. But we can promote
it at the moment. How are you doing it? You know.
Yeah. So up to about £350, which is a shame, really. But I think I'd put 1,000. But obviously, I was hoping that initially when I started it, I was hoping to get a lot more people to join, and that everybody would raise their own donations. But that hasn't happened, unfortunately. So I'm hoping that people might just get behind me doing it, and they can feel secure enough that at least I've donated to it from her and not had to sleep with the midges.
And you're doing it under the banner of VNS as well.
Yeah, I'm doing it under the VNS banner, but obviously the festival.
The festival.
It goes down.
Helps the Lord, and helps the festival.
And if anybody else had have joined, they would have set their own gift out.
Exactly.
But that would have gone to their lodge. Rather than make a version in silence.
That's the way it's all going with other things.
But it's all done. Dean, we wish you really well. We hope it goes really well. And we'll be there in mind, won't we, Roger?
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, Dean. Look, best of luck, and let us know how you get on.
Yeah.
Very nice.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for joining us on another free and accepted podcast. Please like and subscribe to our Suffolk Freemasons YouTube channel.